Hey everybody, my name is Patrick and I own MacDonald Timing. And today, a little bit of a different type of video. We're going to talk about some business things that I've come across in recent months. So the first thing is I lost a client. And I'll tell you that it's a little bit because of a misunderstanding. I think it's probably multiple layers of misunderstanding, but kind of the main thing that I would say was the issue with it. And keep in mind, I'm happy if they watch this. I'm not going to slander them or anything like that. I'm not calling them out publicly. But I think as I've thought about how everything has worked with them, and not just this year but in years past, I believe that they think that they are a customer, and I see them as a client. And that distinction is pretty small, pretty minor, I understand. But to me, customers are always right. Clients can be wrong. And so that's why they're clients, because sometimes the people that pay me, that I work for, they're wrong. Maybe they're wrong for a rules-related reason, or I can't do that, or they didn't, I'm not billing for that. They didn't ask for this or whatever. They didn't ask for all of my cameras to run reverse lines all over creation. Sometimes they're wrong. And ultimately, that's really where I kind of wanted to make a point about it, is that the people that you work for, you think that they're customers, or they think that they're customers, or whatever. And the reality is, you need to treat them as clients. You are walking alongside of them in order to help make something work. And when they step out of line, or in some way, like, you need to be able to make sure that you get them back into line and into order. Again, reverse finish lines are a great way of putting it. Like, if a track is not surveyed for a 200-meter reverse finish line, you can't do it. It's against the rules. If there's qualifying marks, somebody puts up a protest, and just bad news bears. So it's your job to know the rules well enough so that your client isn't endangered in that way. That they're not allowing themselves to fall prey to something that could earn them disgrace or disqualification or something like that. Another thing is, like, I want to do prelims and finals of the hurdles and the 100. Like, well, a lot of times, at least in the college level, there's not enough men hurdlers to fill out the track. So if there's only 7 kids, you can't run a prelim and a final. It's just straight final. And so little things like that, knowing where the rules are and trying to make sure that your client isn't kind of going astray with them. But that said, like, if they see themselves as a customer, then they're always going to be right, and that can be a real problem. And so just kind of be mindful. That's my advice to you, is to make sure that your clients know that they're clients and not customers. And that way you can talk to them in ways that they might, I understand, probably not appreciate, but they need to know if they're wrong or they're going to violate a rule. And customers are always right, clients can be wrong. Second thing is, I lost a bid. It was for an age group event, and we'll come back to age groups obviously in a moment. But I lost a bid. I put in a number. I knew I'd heard from people that they had already decided on somebody as a timer, and so I was happy to do my research and give them a number. And when I did my research, I found out that this facility was going to be terrible to work at. First of all, it is quite a bit of ways away, and so there's going to be lots of travel costs. There were a fair amount of hotels, but right now there's a huge amount of hotel pressure. Hotel prices are very, very high. And then I was going to have to bring in labor. I was going to bring in somebody to come and work with me. And so that was going to be expensive too, because they needed to travel, they needed a hotel room, and they needed to be paid fairly. And paid fairly right now means something else than it did 5 years ago. And so after all my kind of costs, and I realized, like, this is going to be a difficult facility to work at, because there was potentially that I was not going to be in the press box, so no air conditioning, it's the middle of summer, and then also that their parking lot was like 150 meters away from the finish line, and I'm walking back and forth 12 different times, so that's 24 trips, and it's potentially 1.5 miles where I'm walking back and forth from the finish line to my van. And it's just, the totality of the work required a bid that was X, okay? And they wanted a bid that was Y. And I'll tell you that the difference between X and Y was about 60% of what I had originally put out at X. And so they ended up contacting me again and saying, hey, can we do it for this number? And I ultimately said no. I did come down on my price ultimately. I ended up going with X minus 10%, but still, we were significantly apart. Not just tens of dollars or hundreds of dollars, but like 1,000 or two, and so it wasn't going to work. And I thought about it for a while. They wanted me to redo my quote. They ended up coming closer to maybe 75-80% of what my original quote was, and saying this is it. But now you're going to take care of the hotels, and so my hotel costs were essentially negated or killed off immediately. So the amount of money that I would earn was just going down and down and down. At the end of the day, some people would be really happy to take that number and accepting of it and be like, oh yeah, that's a fair amount of money. And other people, other timers would be like, I wouldn't get out of bed for that. For me personally, it just wasn't worthwhile. I knew it was going to be a very difficult event, and I didn't feel like my time was being properly valued, and so I had to say no. I don't think they were expecting it. They did find another timer for the event, and I think it's gone okay, whatever. But I just personally wasn't comfortable there. And what it really came down to, the final decision for me, why am I not going to accept this lower price, this asking point that they're at? I would have been miserable there the entire time that I was working for them. Okay, so I would have gotten there, and I would have been sitting there and resentful. Now, if everything had gone to what I think or could have hoped, there was a chance that I could be up in the press box and it'd be air conditioned and be okay. But if not, I would have been miserable, and I would have been angry at myself for allowing myself to do this job for the amount of money that they wanted and not the amount of money that I wanted. And so it was really the right thing for me to say no, because I wasn't comfortable there. I wasn't comfortable at their number, and so I couldn't do the job for their number. And it's kind of a tough thing. And I tried to make them understand that as I told them, this is my number, this is where we're going to be, here's why. But it's really actually important to make sure that you are comfortable with your numbers. And again, they're not customers, they're not always right. They're clients, and sometimes they can be wrong. And so you need to remember, if you're there, you gotta be the best you that you can be. And if you're upset because you're not getting paid properly, then you're not going to be able to. And finally, the third thing is I am probably taking a sabbatical from age group events, at least ones that are out of state. I just didn't have a great experience with them this year. 2022 summer, I like my clients, I like who they are, but I don't exactly love the workflow of some of the age group events. I really don't like getting the database the day before or something like that, and it's really hard. It makes it hard to do my job, and so I'm going to leave it alone next year. Next year might be on vacation. Who knows where all over the globe could be, but I think I'm going to kind of pull back on those reins for a little bit, because I'm just not happy doing it anymore. And I've linked down in the description a year ago I put out an age group related timing video where I think the consensus was, no, you probably shouldn't be an age group timer. And those things, I kind of rewatched it really quickly. Some of those things are actually more exacerbated right now. In particular, this year, the issue was, again, my costs are going up. And so I'm further away. Hotel is more expensive. Gas is more expensive. My labor should be more expensive. But they didn't want to change their price. And that's going to be a rubbing point. And I think that they are going to struggle to find find a timer at a number that they're really happy with, as far as the acceptable nature of what they can provide, because I'm very good at my job and not everybody is going to be. I talked to quite a few people who are at age group events, and they say, oh, we go to this place and we're there until midnight because the timers are very slow, and it's 2 minutes in between every 100-meter race. And it's like, well, yeah, we can have two on the track at the same time. It's no problem for me, but that's the way it goes. And for me, to them, they probably need to look at their numbers and their rates and understand why I'm charging what I'm charging. It's because I'm so good. when you book me versus somebody that just got a camera last week, you're booking the years of experience that I have in order to do the event faster. And so, the kind of monetary crossover is kind of weird here. And again, the number that I'm charging might be, for some people, an amazing amount. They may love it, but for some people, it's not acceptable. And I'm kind of getting into that zone where the amount of work and the amount of labor and everything, then what they want to pay is not acceptable. So when that crossover is there, and I think we're kind of there, it means that I need to reconsider how I'm operating. And for me, it means taking a break. And honestly, really, truly, just like the thing with losing the bid, I just wasn't as happy doing it this year. It just didn't hit me the right way. And so I'm sure it wasn't the best me that showed up on those days for those events. And that means I need to take a step back. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it was helpful to you for a little bit of kind of the business sense and how I operate, and maybe it helps you with how you operate too. Thanks for watching. Remember, time is luck.